Ready for a truly magical journey to dreamland? Tonight, we begin with the brave Pigling Bland. Will he find independence and adventure? Discover his story right now. And that's just the start of our wonderful collection of Beatrix Potter's classic tales and rhymes. Beyond Pigling Bland's quest, you'll delight in the whimsical words of Appley Dapply's nursery rhymes, explore the charming differences between Johnny Town Mouse and Timmy Willie, and enjoy the playful verses of Cecily Parsley. These aren't just stories and rhymes, they're comforting journeys that teach about independence, friendship, and appreciating life's simple joys, all beautifully narrated to guide your little ones into a peaceful sleep. Which mouse will prefer the city, and which the quiet country? And what kind of adventure awaits Pigling Bland away from home? Settle in, relax, and let the timeless charm of Beatrix Potter fill your dreams. If these tales and rhymes brought you sweet dreams, please give us a like, share your favorite moment in the comments below, and subscribe for more enchanting bedtime adventures. The Tale of Pigling Bland. Once upon a time, there was an old pig called Aunt Petitoes. She had a family of 8, 4 little girl pigs named Crosspatch, Suck-Suck, Yock-Yock, and Spot, and 4 little boy pigs named Alexander, Pigling Bland, Chin-Chin, and Stumpy. Stumpy had had an accident to his tail. The 8 little pigs had very fine appetites. Yes, yes, yes. They eat, and indeed they do eat, said Aunt Petitoes, looking at her family with pride. Suddenly, there were fearful squeals. Alexander had squeezed inside the hoops of the pig trough and gotten stuck. Aunt Petitoes and I dragged him out by his hind legs. Chin-Chin was already in disgrace. It was washing day, and he had eaten a piece of soap. And presently, in a basket of clean clothes, we found another dirty little pig. Tut, tut, tut! Whichever is this? Grunted Aunt Petitoes. Now, all the pig family are pink, or pink with black spots, but this pig child was smutty black all over. When it had been popped into a tub, it proved to be Yock-Yock. I went into the garden. There I found Crosspatch and Suck-Suck rooting up carrots. I whipped them myself and led them out by the ears. Crosspatch tried to bite me. Aunt Petitoes, you are a worthy person, but your family is not well brought up. Every one of them has been in mischief except Spot and Pigling Bland. Yes, yes, sighed Aunt Petitoes, and they drink bucketfuls of milk. I shall have to get another cow. Good little Spot shall stay at home to do the housework, but the others must go. 4 little boy pigs and 4 little girl pigs are too many altogether. Yes, 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 said Aunt Petitoes. There will be more to eat without them. So Chin-Chin and Suck-Suck went away in a wheelbarrow, and Stumpy, Yock-Yock, and Crosspatch rode away in a cart. And the other 2 little boy pigs, Pigling Bland and Alexander, went to market. We brushed their coats, we curled their tails and washed their little faces, and wished them good-bye in the yard. Aunt Petitoes wiped her eyes with a large pocket handkerchief, then she wiped Pigling Bland's nose and shed tears, then she wiped Alexander's nose and shed tears, then she passed the handkerchief to Spot. Aunt Petitoes sighed and grunted, and addressed those little pigs as follows. Now, Pigling Bland, son Pigling Bland, you must go to market. Take your brother Alexander by the hand. Mind your Sunday clothes, and remember to blow your nose. Aunt Petitoes passed round the handkerchief again. Beware of traps, hen roosts, bacon and eggs. Always walk upon your hind legs. Pigling Bland, who was a sedate little pig, looked solemnly at his mother. A tear trickled down his cheek. Aunt Petitoes turned to the other. Now, son Alexander, take the hand. Wee, giggled Alexander. Take the hand of your brother Pigling Bland. You must go to market. Mind. Wee, interrupted Alexander again. You put me out, said Aunt Petitoes. Observe signposts and milestones. Do not gobble herring bones. And remember, said I impressively, if you once cross the county boundary you cannot come back. Alexander, You are not attending. Here are 2 licenses permitting 2 pigs to go to market in Lancashire. Attend. Alexander. I have had no end of trouble in getting these papers from the policeman. Pigling Bland listened gravely. Alexander was hopelessly volatile. I pinned the papers, for safety, inside their waistcoat pockets. Aunt Pettitos gave to each a little bundle, and 8 conversation peppermints with appropriate moral sentiments in screws of paper. Then they started. Pigling Bland and Alexander trotted along steadily for a mile. At least Pigling Bland did. Alexander made the road half as long again by skipping from side to side. He danced about and pinched his brother, singing, "This pig went to market, this pig stayed at home. This pig had a bit of meat, let's see what they have given us for dinner, Pigling." Pigling Bland and Alexander sat down and untied their bundles. Alexander gobbled up his dinner in no time. He had already eaten all his own peppermints. "Give me one of yours, please, Pigling." "But I wish to preserve them for emergencies," said Pigling Bland doubtfully. Alexander went into squeals of laughter. Then he pricked Pigling with the pin that had fastened his pig paper, and when Pigling slapped him, he dropped the pin and tried to take Pigling's pin, and the papers got mixed up. Pigling Bland reproved Alexander, but presently they made it up again, and trotted away together, singing, "Tom, Tom, the piper's son, stole a pig and away he ran." But all the tune that he could play was "Over the hills and far away." "What's that, young sirs? Stole a pig? Where are your licenses?" said the policeman. They had nearly run against him around a corner. Pigling Bland pulled out his paper. Alexander, after fumbling, handed over something scrumply. "To 2½ ounces conversation sweeties at 3 farthings. What's this?" "This ain't a license." Alexander's nose lengthened visibly. He had lost it. "I had one, indeed I had, Mr. Policeman." "It's not likely they let you start without. I am passing the farm. You may walk with me." "Can I come back too?" inquired Pigling Bland. "I see no reason, young sir. Your paper is all right." Pigling Bland did not like going on alone, and it was beginning to rain. But it is unwise to argue with the police. He gave his brother a peppermint and watched him out of sight. To conclude the adventures of Alexander, the policeman sauntered up to the house about tea-time, followed by a damp, subdued little pig. I disposed of Alexander in the neighborhood. He did fairly well when he had settled down. Pigling Bland went on alone dejectedly. He came to crossroads and a signpost. To Market Town, 5 miles. Over the hills, for miles. To Pettitos' farm, 3 miles. Pigling Bland was shocked. There was little hope of sleeping in Market Town, and tomorrow was the hiring fair. It was deplorable to think how much time had been wasted by the frivolity of Alexander. He glanced wistfully along the road towards the hills, and then set off walking obediently the other way, buttoning up his coat against the rain. He had never wanted to go, and the idea of standing all by himself in a crowded market, to be stared at, pushed, and hired by some big strange farmer was very disagreeable. "I wish I could have a little garden and grow potatoes," said Pigling Bland. He put his cold hand in his pocket and felt his paper. He put his other hand in his other pocket and felt another paper, Alexander's. Pigling squealed, then ran back frantically, hoping to overtake Alexander and the policeman. He took a wrong turn, several wrong turns, and was quite lost. It grew dark, the wind whistled, the trees creaked and groaned. Pigling Bland became frightened and cried, "Wee, wee, wee! I can't find my way home." After an hour's wandering, he got out of the wood. The moon shone through the clouds, and Pigling Bland saw a country that was new to him. The road crossed a moor. Below was a wide valley with a river twinkling in the moonlight, and beyond, in misty distance, lay the hills. He saw a small wooden hut, made his way to it, and crept inside. "I am afraid it is a hen-house, but what can I do?" said Pigling Bland, wet and cold and quite tired out. "Bacon and eggs," clucked a hen on a perch. "Trap, trap, trap. Cackle, cackle, cackle," scolded the disturbed cockerel. To market, jig-getty jig," clucked a broody white hen roosting next to him. Pigling Bland, much alarmed, determined to leave at daybreak. In the meantime, he and the hens fell asleep. In less than an hour, they were all awakened. The owner, Mr. Peter Thomas Piper's son, came with a lantern and a hamper to catch 6 fowls to take to market in the morning. He grabbed the white hen roosting next to the cock. Then his eye fell upon Pigling Bland, squeezed up in a corner. He made a singular remark. "Hello, here's another," seized Pigling by the scruff of the neck, and dropped him into the hamper. Then he dropped in 5 more dirty, kicking, cackling hens on top of Pigling Bland. The hamper containing 6 fowls and a young pig was no light weight. It was taken downhill, unsteadily, with jerks. Pigling, although nearly scratched to pieces, contrived to hide the papers and peppermints inside his clothes. At last, the hamper was bumped down onto the kitchen floor, the lid was opened, and Pigling was lifted out. He looked up, blinking, and saw an offensively ugly elderly man, grinning from ear to ear. "This one's come of himself, whatever," said Mr. Piper's son, turning Pigling's pockets inside out. He pushed the hamper into a corner, threw a sack over it to keep the hens quiet, put a pot on the fire, and unlaced his boots. Pigling Bland drew forward a copy stool, and sat on the edge of it, shyly warming his hands. Mr. Piper's son pulled off a boot and threw it against the wainscot at the further end of the kitchen. There was a smothered noise. "Shut up," said Mr. Piper's son. Pigling Bland warmed his hands and eyed him. Mr. Piper's son pulled off the other boot and flung it after the first. There was again a curious noise. "Be quiet, will you?" said Mr. Piper's son. Pigling Bland sat on the very edge of the copy stool. Mr. Piper's son fetched a meal from a chest and made porridge. It seemed to Pigling that something at the further end of the kitchen was taking a suppressed interest in the cooking, but he was too hungry to be troubled by noises. Mr. Piper's son poured out 3 platefuls, for himself, for Pigling, and a third, after glaring at Pigling, he put away with much scuffling and locked up. Pigling Bland ate his supper discreetly. After supper, Mr. Piper's son consulted an almanac and felt Pigling's ribs. It was too late in the season for curing bacon, and he grudged his meal. Besides, the hens had seen this pig. He looked at the small remains of a flitch, and then looked undecidedly at Pigling. "You may sleep on the rug," said Mr. Peter Thomas Piper's son. Pigling Bland slept like a top. In the morning, Mr. Piper's son made more porridge. The weather was warmer. He looked to see how much meal was left in the chest, and seemed dissatisfied. "You'll likely be moving on again," he said to Pigling Bland. Before Pigling could reply, a neighbor, who was giving Mr. Piper's son and the hens a lift, whistled from the gate. Mr. Piper's son hurried out with a hamper, enjoining Pigling to shut the door behind him and not meddle with anything, or "I'll come back and skin you," said Mr. Piper's son. It crossed Pigling's mind that if he had asked for a lift, too, he might still have been in time for the market. But he distrusted Peter Thomas. After finishing breakfast at his leisure, Pigling had a look around the cottage. Everything was locked up. He found some potato peelings in a bucket in the back kitchen. Pigling ate the peel, and washed up the porridge plates in the bucket. He sang while he worked. Tom with his pipe made such a noise. He called up all the girls and boys, and they all ran to hear him play. Over the hills and far away. Suddenly, a little smothered voice chimed in. Over the hills and a great way off. the wind shall blow my top knot off. Pigling Bland put down a plate which he was wiping, and listened. After a long pause, Pigling went on tiptoe and peeped around the door into the front kitchen. There was nobody there. After another pause, Pigling approached the door of the locked cupboard and sniffed at the keyhole. It was quite quiet. After another long pause, Pigling pushed a peppermint under the door. It was sucked in immediately. In the course of the day, Pigling pushed in all the remaining 6 peppermints. When Mr. Piper's son returned, he found Pigling sitting before the fire. He had brushed up the hearth and put on the pot to boil. The meal was not yet at able. Mr. Piper's son was very affable. He slapped Pigling on the back, made lots of porridge, and forgot to lock the meal chest. He did lock the cupboard door, but without properly shutting it. He went to bed early, and told Pigling on no account to disturb him the next day before 12 o'clock. Pigling Bland sat by the fire, eating his supper. All at once at his elbow a little voice spoke. "My name is Pig-wig. Make me more porridge, please." Pigling Bland jumped and looked around. A perfectly lovely little black Berkshire pig stood smiling beside him. She had twinkly little screwed-up eyes, a double chin, and a short, turned-up nose. She pointed at Pigling's plate. He hastily gave it to her, and fled to the meal chest. "How did you come here?" asked Pigling Bland. "Stolen," replied Pig-wig with her mouth full. Pigling helped himself to meal without scruple. "What for?" "Bacon, hams," replied Pig-wig cheerfully. "Why on earth don't you run away?" exclaimed the horrified Pigling. "I shall after supper," said Pig-wig decidedly. Pigling Bland made more porridge and watched her shyly. She finished a second plate, got up, and looked about her, as though she were going to start. "You can't go in the dark," said Pigling Bland. Pig-wig looked anxious. "Do you know your way by daylight?" "I know we can see this little white house from the hills across the river." "Which way are you going, Mr. Pig?" "To market. I have 2 pig papers. I might take you to the bridge, if you have no objection," said Pigling, much confused and sitting on the edge of his copy stool. Pigwig's gratitude was such that she asked so many questions that it became embarrassing to Pigling Bland. He was obliged to shut his eyes and pretend to sleep. She became quiet, and there was a smell of peppermint. "I thought you had eaten them," said Pigling, waking suddenly. "Only the corners," replied Pigwig, studying the sentiments with much interest by the firelight. "I wish you wouldn't. He might smell them through the ceiling," said the alarmed Pigling. Pigwig put back the sticky peppermints into her pocket. "Sing something," she demanded. "I am sorry. I have toothache," said Pigling, much dismayed. "Then I will sing," replied Pigwig. "You will not mind if I say itty-tittity?" "I have forgotten some of the words." Pigling Bland made no objection. He sat with his eyes half shut and watched her. She wagged her head and rocked about, clapping time and singing in a sweet little grunty voice. A funny old mother pig lived in a sty, and 3 little piggies had she. Tea-iddity-iddity, umph, 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 and the little pigs said, "Wee, wee." She sang successfully through 3 or 4 verses, only at every verse her head nodded a little lower, and her little twinkly eyes closed up. Those 3 little piggies grew peaky and lean they might very well be. For somehow they couldn't say umph, 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 and they wouldn't say wee, 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 for somehow they couldn't say. Pigwig's head bobbed lower and lower, until she rolled over, a little round ball, fast asleep on the hearthrug. Pigling Bland, on tiptoe, covered her up with an antimacassar. He was afraid to go to sleep himself. For the rest of the night he sat listening to the chirping of the crickets and to the snores of Mr. Piper's son overhead. Early in the morning, between dark and daylight, Pigling tied up his little bundle and woke up Pig-wig. She was excited and half frightened. But it's dark. How can we find our way? The cock has crowed. We must start before the hens come out. They might shout to Mr. Piper's son. Pig-wig sat down again and commenced to cry. Come away, Pig-wig. We can see when we get used to it. Come. I can hear them clucking. Pigling had never said shush to a hen in his life, being peaceable. Also he remembered the hamper. He opened the house door quietly and shut it after them. There was no garden. The neighborhood of Mr. Piper's sons was all scratched up by fowls. They slipped away hand in hand across an untidy field to the road. The sun rose while they were crossing the moor, a dazzle of light over the tops of the hills. The sunshine crept down the slopes into the peaceful green valleys, where little white cottages nestled in gardens and orchards. That's Westmoreland, said Pig-wig. She dropped Pigling's hand and commenced to dance, singing. Tom, Tom, the piper's son, stole a pig and away he ran. But all the tune that he could play was over the hills and far away. Come, Pig-wig, we must get to the bridge before folks are stirring. Why do you want to go to market, Pigling? Inquired Pig-wig presently. I don't want. I want to grow potatoes. Have a peppermint, said Pig-wig. Pigling Bland refused quite crossly. Does your poor toothy hurt? Inquired Pig-wig. Pigling Bland grunted. Pig-wig ate the peppermint herself and followed the opposite side of the road. Pig-wig, keep under the wall. There's a man plowing. Pig-wig crossed over. They hurried down the hill towards the county boundary. Suddenly Pigling stopped. He heard wheels. Slowly jogging up the road below them came a tradesman's cart. The reins flapped on the horse's back. The grocer was reading a newspaper. Take that peppermint out of your mouth, Pig-wig. We may have to run. Don't say one word. Leave it to me. And in sight of the bridge, said poor Pigling, nearly crying. He began to walk frightfully lame, holding Pigwig's arm. The grocer, intent upon his newspaper, might have passed them, if his horse had not shied and snorted. He pulled the cart crossways and held down his whip. Hello! Where are you going to? Pigling Bland stared at him vacantly. Are you deaf? Are you going to market? Pigling nodded slowly. I thought as much. It was yesterday. Show me your license. Pigling stared at the off hind shoe of the grocer's horse, which had picked up a stone. The grocer flicked his whip. Papers? Pig license. Pigling fumbled in all his pockets and handed up the papers. The grocer read them, but still seemed dissatisfied. This here pig is a young lady. Is her name Alexander? Pigwig opened her mouth and shut it again. Pigling coughed asthmatically. The grocer ran his finger down the advertisement column of his newspaper. Lost, stolen or strayed, 10 shillings reward. He looked suspiciously at Pigwig. Then he stood up in the trap and whistled for the ploughman. You wait here while I drive on and speak to him, said the grocer, gathering up the reins. He knew that pigs are slippery, but surely such a very lame pig could never run. Not yet, Pigwig, he will look back. The grocer did so. He saw the 2 pigs stock still in the middle of the road. Then he looked over at his horse's heels. It was lame also. The stone took some time to knock out, after he got to the ploughman. Now, Pigwig, now, said Pigling Bland. Never did any pigs run as these pigs ran. They raced and squealed and pelted down the long white hill towards the bridge. Little fat Pigwig's petticoats fluttered, and her feet went pitter, patter, pitter as she bounded and jumped. They ran, and they ran, and they ran down the hill and across a short cut on level green turf at the bottom, between pebble beds and rushes. They came to the river, they came to the bridge, they crossed it hand in hand, Then over the hills and far away she danced with Pigling Bland. The end. Appley Dapply's Nursery Rhymes. Appley Dapply, a little brown mouse, goes to the cupboard in somebody's house. In somebody's cupboard. There's everything nice. Cake, cheese, jam, biscuits, all charming for mice. Appley Dapply has little sharp eyes, and Appley Dapply is so fond of pies. Now who is this knocking at Cottontail's door? Tap, tap pit, tap, tap pit. She's heard it before, and when she peeps out, there is nobody there but a present of carrots, put down on the stair. Hark! I hear it again. Tap, tap, tap pit, tap, tap pit. Why, I really believe it's a little black rabbit. Old Mr. Pricklepin has never a cushion to stick his pins in. His nose is black and his beard is gray, and he lives in an ash stump over the way. You know the old woman who lived in a shoe and had so many children, she didn't know what to do? I think if she lived in a little shoe house, that little old woman was surely a mouse. Diggory, diggory, delvet, a little old man in black velvet. He digs and he delves. You can see for yourselves. The mounds dug by Diggory Delvet. Gravy and potatoes in a good brown pot. Put them in the oven and serve them very hot. There once was an amiable guinea pig who brushed back his hair like a periwig. He wore a sweet tie, as blue as the sky, and his whiskers and buttons were very big. The end. The Tale of Johnny Town Mouse. Johnny Town Mouse was born in a cupboard. Timmy Willie was born in a garden. Timmy Willie was a little country mouse who went to town by mistake in a hamper. The gardener sent vegetables to town once a week by carrier. He packed them in a big hamper. The gardener left the hamper by the garden gate so that the carrier could pick it up when he passed. Timmy Willie crept in through a hole in the wickerwork, and after eating some peas, Timmy Willie fell fast asleep. He awoke in a fright while the hamper was being lifted into the carrier's cart. Then there was a jolting and a clattering of horses' feet. Other packages were thrown in. For miles and miles, jolt, jolt, jolt. Timmy Willie trembled amongst the jumbled-up vegetables. At last, the cart stopped at a house, where the hamper was taken out, carried in and set down. The cook gave the carrier sixpence, the back door banged, and the cart rumbled away. But there was no quiet. There seemed to be hundreds of carts passing. Dogs barked, boys whistled in the street, the cook laughed, the parlor maid ran up and down stairs, and a canary sang like a steam engine. Timmy Willie, who had lived all his life in a garden, was almost frightened to death. Presently, the cook opened the hamper and began to unpack the vegetables. Out sprang the terrified Timmy Willie. Up jumped the cook on a chair, exclaiming, "A mouse! A mouse! Call the cat! Fetch me the poker, Sarah!" Timmy Willie did not wait for Sarah with the poker. He rushed along the skirting board till he came to a little hole, and in he popped. He dropped half a foot, and crashed into the middle of a mouse dinner party, breaking 3 glasses. "Who in the world is this?" inquired Johnny Town Mouse. But after the first exclamation of surprise, he instantly recovered his manners. With the utmost politeness, he introduced Timmy Willie to 9 other mice, all with long tails and white neckties. Timmy Willie's own tail was insignificant. Johnny Town Mouse and his friends noticed it, but they were too well bred to make personal remarks. Only one of them asked Timmy Willie if he had ever been in a trap. The dinner was of 8 courses, not much of anything, but truly elegant. All the dishes were unknown to Timmy Willie, who would have been a little afraid of tasting them, only he was very hungry, and very anxious to behave with company manners. The continual noise upstairs made him so nervous that he dropped a plate. "Never mind, they don't belong to us," said Johnny. "Why don't those youngsters come back with the dessert?" It should be explained that two young mice, who were waiting on the others, went skirmishing upstairs to the kitchen between courses. Several times they had come tumbling in, squeaking and laughing. Timmy Willie learned with horror that they were being chased by the cat. His appetite failed. He felt faint. "Try some jelly," said Johnny Town Mouse. "No. Would you rather go to bed? I will show you a most comfortable sofa pillow." The sofa pillow had a hole in it. Johnny Town Mouse quite honestly recommended it as the best bed, kept exclusively for visitors. But the sofa smelled of cat. Timmy Willie preferred to spend a miserable night under the fender. It was just the same next day. An excellent breakfast was provided, for mice accustomed to eat bacon. But Timmy Willie had been reared on roots and salad. Johnny Town Mouse and his friends racketted about under the floors, and came boldly out all over the house in the evening. One particularly loud crash had been caused by Sarah tumbling downstairs with the tea tray. There were crumbs and sugar and smears of jam to be collected, in spite of the cat. Timmy Willie longed to be at home in his peaceful nest in a sunny bank. The food disagreed with him. The noise prevented him from sleeping. In a few days, he grew so thin that Johnny Town Mouse noticed it and questioned him. He listened to Timmy Willie's story and inquired about the garden. "It sounds rather dull place. What do you do when it rains?" "When it rains, I sit in my little sandy burrow and shell corn and seeds from my autumn store. I peep out at the throstles and blackbirds on the lawn, and my friend Cock Robin. And when the sun comes out again, you should see my garden and the flowers, roses and pinks and pansies. No noise except the birds and bees, and the lambs in the meadows." "There goes that cat again," exclaimed Johnny Town Mouse. When they had taken refuge in the coal cellar, he resumed the conversation. "I confess I am a little disappointed. We have endeavored to entertain you, Timothy William." "Oh yes, yes, you have been most kind, but I do feel so ill," said Timmy Willie. "It may be that your teeth and digestion are unaccustomed to our food. Perhaps it might be wiser for you to return to the hamper." "Oh, oh!" cried Timmy Willie. "Why, of course, for the matter of that, we could have sent you back last week," said Johnny rather huffily. "Did you not know that the hamper goes back empty on Saturdays?" So Timmy Willie said good-bye to his new friends, and hid in the hamper with a crumb of cake and a withered cabbage leaf, and after much jolting, he was set down safely in his own garden. Sometimes on Saturdays, he went to look at the hamper lying by the gate, but he knew better than to get in again. And nobody got out, though Johnny Town Mouse had half promised a visit. The winter passed, the sun came out again. Timmy Willie sat by his burrow warming his little fur coat and sniffing the smell of violets and spring grass. He had nearly forgotten his visit to town. When up the sandy path, all spick and span with a brown leather bag, came Johnny Town Mouse. Timmy Willie received him with open arms. "You have come at the best of all the year. We will have herb pudding and sit in the sun." It is a little damp," said Johnny Town Mouse, who was carrying his tail under his arm, out of the mud. "What is that fearful noise?" He started violently. "That?" said Timmy Willie. "That is only a cow. I will beg a little milk. They are quite harmless, unless they happen to lie down upon you." "How are all our friends?" Johnny's account was rather middling. He explained why he was paying his visit so early in the season. The family had gone to the seaside for Easter. The cook was doing spring cleaning, on board wages, with particular instructions to clear out the mice. There were 4 kittens, and the cat had killed the canary. "They say we did it, but I know better," said Johnny Town Mouse. "Whatever is that fearful racket?" "That is only the lawn mower. I will fetch some of the grass clippings presently to make your bed." I am sure you had better settle in the country, Johnny. We shall see by Tuesday week. The hamper is stopped while they are at the seaside. I am sure you will never want to live in town again, said Timmy Willie. But he did. He went back to the very next hamper of vegetables. He said it was too quiet. One place suits one person, another place suits another person. For my part, I prefer to live in the country, like Timmy Willie. The end. Cecily Parsley's Nursery Rhymes. Cecily Parsley lived in a pen, and brewed good ale for gentlemen. Gentlemen came every day, till Cecily Parsley ran away. Goosey, goosey, gander, whither will you wander? Upstairs and downstairs, and in my lady's chamber. This pig went to market, this pig stayed at home, this pig had a bit of meat, and this pig had none. This little pig cried, wee, 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 I can't find my way home. Pussy-cat sits by the fire. How should she be fair? In walks the little dog. Says, Pussy, are you there? How do you do, Mistress Pussy? Mistress Pussy, how do you do? I thank you kindly, little dog. I fare as well as you. Three blind mice, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife, and she cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? As three blind mice. Bow wow wow. Whose dog art thou? I'm little Tom Tinker's dog. Bow wow wow. We have a little garden, a garden of our own, and every day we water there the seeds that we have sown. We love our little garden, and tend it with such care. You will not find a faded leaf, or blighted blossom there. Ninny nanny netticoat, in a white petticoat, with a red nose. The longer she stands, the shorter she grows. The end.